All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. PDQ and A. I'm Shane.
I'm Lex.
And this is Lisa. You're going to get to know her. Lisa, we finally had to go to the big leagues.
Yeah, we poached her from the Jazz.
Yeah, the Utah Jazz. She was in charge of their suites and exclusive seating and stuff like that. But we realized we're just too hunkered down, and we actually don't have the intelligence.
Dude, we're nerds. That's really what it is. We need someone to help us.
Yeah, so Lisa, you're going to be working with customer outreach. You're going to be working with user groups and voice of the customer, usability testing, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Bringing all that expertise from the Jazz here.
So as Lex, and to a degree, as I go out and meet the customers, sometimes you'll be able to meet Lisa, but she's going to be an integral part of this. Like I said, we finally had to go to the big leagues. She's now the head of the smarketing team.
Marketing team.
Marketing team.
It's a smarketing, as Sean said, smarketing. It's for males and sarketing.
Marketing.
All righty.
Yeah, she's going to be the sales and the marketing, and we're happy. No, we're happy. You're in the big leagues. You're great. You'd be able to rein us in. So this is Lisa, everybody. You'll be getting to know her.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
All right, Lisa, we're going to go ahead and jump on this.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Here's your whiskey. Here's your whiskey if you do want any of that. If you want to, otherwise I'll wrap it up for you.
I like to start off Q&A with a whiskey, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Skull.
We've got a lot of questions in the pipeline. It's like planes flying over JFK ready to land, so let's do it.
Question number one of, I've lost count how many we have in the queue so far, but here we go. In the context of the WannaCrypt Ransomware, MS-1710, and the March, April, May cumulative updates for various Windows OSs, how would you create a PDQ Inventory Report to show computers missing the patch and then dynamic collections for remediation? Sincerely, Chad B.
Well, we do have some in the extra or bonus content area. There's an XML file.
You can download.
That you can download and then import that. That XML file is really just exported collections that Chris built. Chris is right over here. Go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah, Chris. No. If that's all you're going to add, don't do it.
Ask you to say
so anyway, and the reason Chris made special point to not use variables because without using variables, this can now be imported into free mode.
Yeah.
If you have your collection library, if you have inventory and you're in an enterprise level, an active enterprise level, then you will have access to the collection library, and you will see
under Windows
updates. We did throw a special top level collection in there called WannaCrypt patch. And Lex, the question was, how do we the highlighter? The question was. Yes. How do we the record
how do we
show
turn that into a report?
So Lex, I'm going to put Lex on the spot. Make that into a report.
All you do is right click on it, go to new. This is tough, guys. Basic report. Now
actually not. No, you want to do a report from a collection.
Report from. You're right. My bad.
So let's start. That's okay.
Ooh,
it's all right.
Ow,
we will nail this down.
New report.
It looks like okay. So that's right. If it's in the collection library, you might need to just drag this out. Now go ahead and do that.
Actually,
Lex.
You know what? It is, man. That's the top level. I need to grab one of the ones actually a collection below it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So go ahead. You just delete that. You just keep on going down.
Right click there. Now
okay. So these are not patched. This not patched includes servers, includes workstations, and you can see how Chris broke this down. Thank you for catching that. Chris broke this down even further if you want to collapse that. But what this is going to show.
Computers, and then basically it drags the filters over for you, so that you don't have to put them in. There we go.
And there's like 35 at this point.
35?
Something like that. And if we missed one, let us know ASAP. We'll get it fixed.
We haven't heard any negative feedback, only positive.
Right.
Basically what we're doing now, Chris is using a regular expression here. And he's noticed this not any grouping. Hold on. There we go. Yeah. There, you happy, JJ?
Yeah, I am happy.
All right. He's basically just listing all the KBs that patch this, because remember there's cumulative ones. So this came out in the March cumulative patch, so that means that the April cumulative also will patch it, the May cumulative, as well as the March security only, but not the April or May security only. Security only is only respective to that month.
Yep.
So he's got all those KBs in there, and the that pipe symbol that you see, that's a regular expression operator for or.
Yeah.
So basically we're saying these are computers that are not patched, and we're just saying not any of these can exist.
Yep.
And he just lists like all 35 of them.
You know, it's interesting. Kelly sent me a link for a Kaspersky thing that went over the WannaCrypt, and you know, I kind of was in and out listening to that, and basically it boiled down. The guy there says, "Look, guys, ultimately you need to patch, and you know what? You know what we do here? We help you patch." So,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You can now we did as a just because of the high impact of this. I'm going to say no to that. Because of the high impact of this, we've modified. I mean, all of our Windows updates require an enterprise level to import them. There's several packages that do that, and the Windows updates are up there. We did temporarily, and we're going to do that for the rest of this month of May. Those are also available in Pro. They just won't work in free because free you're limited to just one install step. But if you go out to your collection library, I'm sorry,
package
how about
library.
if I go to the package library?
So, how much
suck.
whiskey you had to drink
I
already
suck.
this morning, friend?
Not
near enough? Is the
enough
right
or not
answer.
too much or not. It'll still yield 0. I don't move the needle at all. If you want to come down into categories and see Windows updates, you'll see them.
WannaCrypt, right? If you hold the Windows thing.
Well, this is the WannaCrypt out of band, so that's only for the out of band. That's for the XPs, the Vistas. These are the
Old OSs.
that
Not
Microsoft's
Vista.
normally not patching.
Not Vista,
I'm
Chris?
sorry. 2003, Windows 8,
And then XP.
and XP.
Actually,
Yes.
okay.
So that's grab that one for those. If you still, please don't have those machines very much longer, folks. But then you'll see this. You'll have your Windows 10 cumulative, your Windows 1607, your Windows, and the Windows 7. We'll cover this really quick, and then we'll move on to the next question. Windows 7 and 8.1. You have your monthly roll up. Okay, is that as far as you can scroll in there, JJ? There we go. Here? You have your monthly roll up, and then your security only. Security only is not cumulative. It's only security fixes for that respective month.
Best practice, guys, go with the roll-ups, okay? And the other thing is, best practice at this point is auto-deploy those, you know? Just get that out of your way so you don't have to think about it anymore.
Absolutely. You could, to do this, if you have your Windows 7 machines, you could go to the Win 7 monthly roll-up, go to new auto-deployment, create a new schedule,
and you're off to the races at that point.
and specify your targets. We have those targets listed in your collection library, because even without this WannaCrypt, you can just always go to whatever is the latest patched. You'll see those under the Windows updates in the collection library.
And again, guys, just link to those. We got some great videos on how to do auto deployments, so
Yep.
we'll just leave that with you at this point.
Cool.
Should we do another question?
Yep.
All right.
A lot of folks have been asking this one. Dear Shane and Lex, with Central Server, if I have it set up on a machine at my work, do I need a license for each client I want to use with it? I have Enterprise and basically want to know if I can have the client on my workstation and laptop, so while I'm walking around or away from my desk, I can still deploy packages under one license. Thank you, Nick W.
Hey, Nick, the only limitation there is concurrent. So if you're going to be taking your laptop around, yes, by all means, have the client installed. It's just if you've got another client session running and you have only the one license and you've got another console running, that console just needs to be closed.
Yep.
So it just comes down to concurrent licenses. It's kind of like, you buy a book and you can read that book. Two people really can't read that book at the same time, but you can hand that book off.
Yeah.
So that's a loose way of looking at in your situation.
Yeah. What else we got?
Dear Shane and Lex, our workstations are supposed to be set up with specific equipment. We have 1,400 stations at my site alone and don't always catch when items are improperly moved. Is there a way for PDQ Inventory to flag if hardware was changed between the last scan and the current one, such as the associated monitor changing serial numbers? Sincerely, Kathleen F.
Hey, Kathleen.
Yeah, hey, not at this point. I mean, not natively anyway.
Keeping that kind of information would just blow that database huge.
Yeah, and we may do, that's what's known as historical information.
Yeah.
And we are considering that. Obviously, we're fairly low-priced software, especially compared to our
Competitors.
So we might do that in the future. We have some tentative plans to look into that for historical. That being said, you can do your reports. We have people that do auto reports, and then they compare.
Yeah.
Hey, this report was in this case, the monitors for these systems, And you can even script that out. But there's not a native feature for that, for the historical database.
Chris
stuff.
is over there doing this.
Chris, go ahead. Chris, go ahead and pipe in real quick, buddy.
Shane typed in, excuse me, you covered it at the very end. I was going to say PowerShell because that's what I do. But really, you could actually set up a PowerShell script to identify what you're looking for, have it run as a scheduled task or as a schedule in PDQ Deploy for those targets to look for changed information. Store that locally on the machine somewhere and reference it. If it changed, send an email. Done.
Hey, Chris.
I smell a blog post coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to write that one up as a blog, buddy.
That's weird.
That's weird.
If only Chris could write, we'd be mostly
Hey,
there.
he's going to the Lex School of Illiteracy.
Oh gosh,
He's doing
that
very
blog
well.
will never come out. Then.
Speaking of which, I have a blog on the WannaCry this morning that touched. So
Oh,
Nice.
sweet, way to
Just
go,
saying.
man.
Awesome, man.
You can write.
somewhat.
It's cute. He can write.
Dear Shane and Lex, what's the best way to set up a linked collection so that freshly imaged or new PCs pick up the software associated with the OU they are dropped into, preferably without constantly pushing the same software to PCs that already have it? Thanks in advance, Tiffany G.
Keep that question up for a second because I'm going to have to parse that. Lex, sing a song while I parse this.
No.
Okay, so that's what I said, a linked collection to freshly. Okay,
Build a collection off an OU is basically what she's asking.
you can build a collection off an OU. You can also build a collection off of the OS install date.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that one, man.
Yeah, it can't. There's a couple of ways up here. Let's see if we can hurry and go back to inventory.
Inventory?
Yeah. So in inventory, and we because of the time on this is a great question. I would have liked to have this question earlier.
We could have built you something.
Yeah, when you're going to build a new collection. All right, there we go. Start to freeze for a second. Right. All right.
I think it's the nut behind the keyboard, Shane.
It could very well could be. There's a couple of ways. So Lex mentioned Active Directory. So under the computer table, scroll on up to AD, and you'll see stuff like AD path. That's where you can say, or AD actually parent path, because path includes the actual computer name.
Good point.
Parent path. That's the entire path of the OU in which that computer resides. Remember, a computer can only reside in one OU. So you can use parent path if you want to base it off of. Pardon me.
You all right, man?
Yeah. Okay. If you want to base that off of Active Directory. But if you scroll down to the OS, there's the OS install date. And you can use that OS install date, like anything that was that has a date after 14 days ago or after 7 days ago will only show you the computers that have come in that 7-day window or 3-day window, however, whatever window it works for you, and then link to that collection to say deploy software to anything that's in this computer that has a new OS install date.
Now, the one thing you got to remember on both those cases, let's say you install today and you install tomorrow and you haven't moved it from the OU and it's been less than the days before it pops out of that collection, you might end up hitting it twice.
Yeah, instead of doing a fixed date, which you could specify a date, you would do, and thank you very much for that, you could do like a relative date, and we'll just say something like 4 days. Let's see if we have any computers in here that come up with 4 days. No. Look, all of our computers are a little newer
We
now.
set up most of those like a couple weeks ago.
6? No, 21.
21 days. Yeah, we ought to be good there.
Also, side note, while you're doing that, if you set the schedule to deploy only once, that will make it so that it only deploys that even if they're in the same OU.
Hey, very
That's
good.
important.
Thanks,
That's
Chris.
important.
It is very good.
Just want to see what we got here. There's 312. So these are pretty old.
We got 2 new ones. I dare you to find them, man.
Let's make sure I'm not
do
smoking
90
crack.
days.
Let's make sure I'm not smoking crack here.
Well, do you want to change from before to after? Or after?
No, I want to change this up.
There's debate on our logic.
Plays with that. Now, one bad thing about the OS install date is there are times where people will think, this is like they may have done it. I've seen images before that still retain the old date.
Old date, yeah.
So yeah, you've got to make sure that's nailed down. Yeah. So in this case, yeah.
Chris, have you seen that before?
With the old OS install date?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it can, and certainly if you like rename a computer or something like that, or you use the same computer object, it's not gonna work for you. But There's a couple of ways to do it. I personally use OUs.
I agree. OUs
Because then I have a computer in this OU. That OU is a target of a bunch of deployments, and then I move that computer out after X amount of time.
And then if you're like Chris, the last step after you do all that install is you move it from the staging OU to a different OU, right?
Yes.
Using
ideally,
what? Batch.
PowerShell.
Batch.
All right.
To call PowerShell.
To call PowerShell.
We have another question.
We do. Dear Shane and Lex, now that Microsoft has released the MBR2GBT tool for BIOS to UEFI conversion, can we detect which machines still use legacy BIOS and MBR disks? Sincerely, Eddie.
I haven't tested that.
Tried that one
do
either.
you know that one, Chris? Eddie, we're drinking.
I'm shaking my head.
You can't shake your head. You're not on camera. You got to talk, buddy.
Time to drink, you guys. I don't know. I haven't tested it. Nate, Colby probably did that. While it was in a prototype, so he's probably screaming right now.
I know the answer. Yeah, I can do this. Yeah.
This is Colby's scream. Excuse me.
Excuse me, guys.
I'd like to opine. I'm sorry. I don't know. I haven't tested it. I don't know that one.
We love you, Colby.
Go ahead. Pop it up.
Dear Shane and Lex, is it possible, and if so, would you ever consider allowing a PowerShell command being sent from a client PC to a PDQ Deploy server to initiate a deployment of a package or packages? Sincerely, Thorn. Why?
Okay, there's a lot of people that do that right now. Obviously, there's some licensing issues in there that you just have to make sure you have the appropriate number of licenses. And Chris, do you wanna pipe in on this one?
Boy, howdy. So, once upon a time, there's this wonderful commandlet in PowerShell called invoke command. You can do that to remote computers. So if you have this script running on a remote computer and have it run invoke command to your PDQ machine, you can then use the PDQ deploy command line utilities to say, hey, deploy this package or start this schedule or do all this fancy stuff and let me know.
Now, caveat on that. Don't they have to be a console user? Doesn't there have to be a console user?
Yes, absolutely. Good point. You absolutely do have to be a console user. Good call.
Because that's kind of a security issue. If I could just launch something from my machine to your machine to deploy stuff,
And then there's the the feature that we're discussing about allowing user initiated or user requested,
right.
but
User requested.
we still have some more infrastructure to build before that. So the answer is there. And actually, there's quite a few blog posts and knowledge base people comment. I know Steve Waldinger is a big one on that one.
I think I have a blog and or video on that somewhere.
Someone find that, maybe throw that into the bonus content.
Which one, Shane?
It's the one that running the CLI from a remote computer.
Okay, we'll take a look for it.
Yeah, thanks. Talk to Chris if you need some help on that, because I know you can't read.
You're right.
So quit pretending.
I will. I'll stop tomorrow.
Dear Shane and Lex, is it possible to prioritize one deployment over another? I am currently pushing an updated Shophos install to all company devices using a heartbeat schedule and have had a few one-off deployments that I need done sooner rather than later. Do I have to abort the running deployments, or is there a way to add the deployment to the front of the line, so to speak? Sincerely, Sean or Scene P.
Hey, Sean. So on I'm going to give you the answer natively is really no. We don't have. Well, actually, when you do a deployment, when you do multiple deployments to targets, we actually just kind of randomly throw them in there. We used to do it alphabetically. We stopped doing that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's in the queue, and we don't have a way at this point of prioritizing.
Again, and if you want to get something in front of something else, you're going to have to abort everything above it.
Yeah. If that really is the concern, definitely.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Dear Shane and Lex, how does PDQ handle running installs from a DFS namespace? Would it still use the server as a proxy or pull from local? Larry G.
So Larry, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, Larry. First of all, depending on you need to have you need to be calling the namespace from your repository variable. It needs to be in a pull. Okay. And then ultimately what happens on the back end is run by Microsoft. So if you've got your DFS set up properly, it's going to do the local pull. It's going to be it's called the least cost pull.
Okay.
And that's how it's going to do it. So really, basically, we're just calling the namespace, and then Microsoft DFS takes care of everything on the back end.
I'm going to go. I'll show you this if you want to come back over here. If you go down to options and variables, and this is moved. This was in the preferences panel. Yeah, sure. If you go down to variables, let's say that you do have you have your DFS namespace, and you can just call this, my DFS namespace or something like that, and it will automatically format that. And then it's whatever your
namespace, DFS server,
DFS server /
domain, DFS server, blah,
and then whatever your namespace is, which obviously looks like the shared name, shared deployments or something like that. Then you can always just reference that variable at my DFS NS.
The other thing I would do is
in
make
your
sure
packages.
You point your repository at your DFS namespace.
Yeah, if you want to do that. I mean, to also do that, then you'd point your repository, as Lex mentioned there. But that way, you're not always having to type that path in to your all your different packages.
Your custom
It's
packages,
just you use that variable, and then if that variable ever changes, your namespace changes. Hopefully, it won't. Then you
one spot, change them all.
change it at one spot, and affects all your packages.
Yeah.
So, and definitely, if you're the rule on the push or the pull is if you're ever doing, if those source files exist on a machine that is not the server,
Console?
where the console, or if you're running the the central server, or if you're just on your console, if those install files exist on another machine, you want to use your copy mode of pull. And then only change that as needed. And to change your copy mode, it's to pull. You set that to pull. But in order to pull, your repository must be listed as a UNC. So there you go. Next question.
Yes, dear Shane and Lex, with inventory and deploy, will you ever have a patch management module? By that I mean a specific function that will compare software versions and patch only those that need patched and give you detailed reports of the patches, something like Secunia PSI built into inventory. Sincerely, Darrell S.
Darrell. Aaron.
Yeah.
With a poor man's Key and Peele here. What's going on?
Timothy, present.
Present. Hey, Daryl. To be determined. As far as breaking down that level, obviously right now you can do your patches, but it's just basic. All we're generally doing is looking to see if that patch has been applied according to the registry, according to Windows, saying yes, this patch has been applied. When you want to start breaking down the versions and superseded, then that's to be determined if we offer something like that.
Can become a very monumental task, and
it's huge.
The price would go up. I would imagine if we started maintaining that.
Adam and I had built a product a long time ago for the Air Force that did that, and it was a very, very time-consuming. Well, not only building it, but then they had to have dedicated people to say
maintain it.
This patch represents these versions of these files, and the scanner had to look for those files, etc. And so it is a fairly time-consuming task that we haven't implemented yet. So if we do that, you'll definitely hear about it, Daryl.
Yeah.
Dear Shane and Lex, I am a one-person IT department. I have deploy and inventory running on a server to which I RDP. Does Central Server add any value in my situation? By the way, does Central Server include both products? Still 2 server processes? Sincerely, David H.
Hey, David. Okay, so we don't have a Central Server for inventory yet. That's forthcoming in version 13.
Now, Central Server, if you're the only one using it, I don't know that you need to share it with anybody but yourself, really. So in that case,
but let's say that you do have you're on a server and you have your workstation. So let's pretend this computer you're looking at right here is called Guinness, and we have the Central Server. It's in Central Server mode. To always verify that, you can go to Central Server, and you can see yes, there's 2 options here for setting to local mode, which is how deploy is usually run, or client. Now we'll open up. We've got Heineken. Let's say Heineken happens to be David your personal computer. Okay, this is your workstation. So in your workstation, now we're looking at the console. We have this running in client mode. You can see that it says client up there in the title bar.
I guess the thing I'm wondering, Shane, I mean, okay, we can do this, and it takes you back, and you can attach the server without using RDP. So I guess from that aspect, I don't have to use RDP. But if he's using RDP, what's the benefit? I mean, I guess the benefits you don't have to use RDP.
Yeah, you
at
don't,
that
and
point.
especially when you have multiple administrators and you don't want to all RDP to the same computer.
That's a good point.
This one, we do have that communication going back and forth with the server. So, you deploy, we deploy Audacity here, and I'll just do to D7 Shaw-Lab. You deploy that if you happen to be looking at the server monitor at the server console, you'll see, oh wait, there's a deployment going on right now. It's Audacity. It's going to Shaw Lab,
And it came from?
and it
Heineken.
came from the computer Heineken. So, I mean, it's especially with multiple users.
Yeah.
It's just the ability to not have to. You just remove that remote desktop from the equation. You have this installed as an application in client mode, and you remove RDP from the equation, and that will be forthcoming in inventory as well. So.
Dear Shane and Lex, we have a repeat question from Eddie C. Is there a way to use PDQ Inventory to scan for Intel vPro machines that are vulnerable to the recent Intel AMT security flaw?
Chris, do you know this one? If there's
Do we report on that in BIOS? I mean, can we pull that?
Okay, so I can't read the question from here. Was that, they say the vPro stuff? Or?
Yeah, vPro
So,
for Intel.
I know a lot of Intel stuff, they actually have custom WMI classes for those once they're installed. So if you can actually scan them via WMI, sure, why not? You can actually do your own custom scanner if you like, gather information in and save it to like a CSV, and then use the custom fields import wizard and get it in there. Fantastic. Yes, you can. You can even automate the entire thing or script it out with PowerShell, since PowerShell.
now you're saying WMI. We don't have a WMI scanner.
No, I'm using PowerShell. So
No,
using
so you use
PowerShell command
PowerShell to collect that
use-
information.
Correct. And
Into
so,
a CSV.
because I'm assuming like
import
the
it.
other stuff with like vPro that's stored in their WMI classes, that are specific to the Intel stuff. But without, I haven't dived into that myself, so I'm not positive. But I would assume it's the same where it has that information stored in WMI.
Okay. So what he's saying is we're not capturing that in the normal NIC scanner.
Yeah, there's nothing native for it, but according to the PowerShell guru,
Yeah.
PowerShell,
I smell yet another blog post coming.
Yeah, I'm writing it down on this cloth. But that being said, you might, if you can find any documentation on Intel's website with how to get that information about the AMT, you could find it. If not, reach out to me. I can find it. I'm pretty confident on that. So,
Thank you, Chris.
yeah.
Just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
We usually do a half an hour show, but I think we're going to go. We got a lot of questions today, so
Let's rip 'em
stick
out.
around, guys. We're going to
Yeah,
do
rip 'em out.
we're going to do about 45 minutes.
keep rolling. I love it.
Dear Shane and Lex, what's the best way to move my instance of PDQ Deploy to a dedicated workstation to use as my central server for my group of 4 admins? Note, my instance is considered the master for packages and mass deployments. Sincerely, Chad B.
I can picture Jason in his office like, do my method, do my method, do it.
Yes, so Jason's just published a
And it's a
knowledge
great
base
method,
article,
yeah.
and this actually works. This is when you want to take your central server or your database and move it to another computer and then make that, because obviously when you install Deploy 13, it's in local mode.
Yep.
And then you can take a computer and make it at the server, and then all the packages, schedules, and settings on that computer are now available for all the clients. When you take a client, when you take Deploy 13 in local mode and make it a client, those packages and settings are lost. So there's
Yeah.
exporting that.
Tim, they're
But in
not
your-
lost, they're not available.
They're not available.
Not available.
You can export those before and then re-import them.
Okay.
But in your case, there's a knowledge. Can we get that? Let's get Jason to send that link, because it's going to basically require you to do a backup.
Backup and a restore.
Backup on your backup on your current what's
Database.
going to be the database that will be the master. Move that over
file.
to the other target,
And then restore it.
and then you do a restore, and then you make that the master, and
Yep.
then you're good to go. It's just an extra step in there.
Pretty easy.
Can we get that?
Chris is over there doing the ooh.
Caveat: you can't do a manual backup with free, so it's going to have to be from your last upgrade.
Oh, actually, with free, you can just copy. It's an extra.
You can copy the
extra
database,
step.
all right,
You
so
can
just-
copy the database that's currently there to
Yes.
your new location.
So just
Okay.
a slightly different thing. Also, credentials. Be aware, credentials need to be reestablished. Once
Oh,
you
that's
get in.
right. Thanks, Chris.
yeah, enter your credentials again. Thank you. Yeah, Jason's probably pulling his hair out. Even though his soccer team won yesterday, his football team
Football?
won yesterday.
It's MLS. It's soccer.
Dear Shane and Lex, what would be a drawback in a 6-site network having 2 admins share the same central store? Things we might or should be aware of for dangers or headaches. Sincerely, Jason A.
Two admins share the same central source. So if you're talking about central server, that's what it's built for.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I worry about if Shane and I are sharing is that he'd go and change all of my misspellings in my packages so they actually made sense.
You should worry about that, huh?
You should be grateful for that, but you have to go back to the fact that I don't share with you. So
That's okay.
this is actually what it was built for.
Yes.
If you're, Jason,
Yeah.
if you're talking about using central server, that's what it's about. You just designate a server or a computer that acts as a central server, and then you and your other coworker will just run client mode to that, and then you're both sharing and using the same packages.
Here's the caveat. Okay, it's an all. Once it's out there, you can both edit packages. So there's no real permissions at this level.
We do have locking in there, so if you're editing a package, your coworker won't be able to make changes to it. Can still use it to a degree of deployments, but don't deploy a computer a package that's being edited.
We built this for you guys watching and not for us,
we wanna say
specifically
something?
because of
Can I say-
Lex.
What? Me?
Yeah.
Really?
When you guys were talking about locking, I just had this mental image of, well, they're my packages, and just opening up every package, editing them so no one else can do anything. But that's funny.
That's fantastic.
You're evil, Chris. I love it.
That's exactly what it was there for. Now, if you're talking about the old method where you're both running in local, yeah, you can both point to the same repository, but you will be stepping on each other a little bit. And if you're not running central server and he deletes a package and those corresponding files, your package is still there, but those files have been deleted. Yeah, so you can step on each other quite
It's
a
a
bit.
good time to point out in 14 that's going away, the sharing.
Yeah, if you're using the sharing, this is kind of the predecessor feature to central server.
Yeah.
We're keeping it alive for one version, but the sharing is going away because of the central
Basically
server.
deprecated at this point, right?
It is deprecated, yeah.
Dear Shane and Lex, when switching to client mode, does the local database get erased, or is it just not read anymore? Sincerely, Chris G.
It's not read anymore.
Yep. Still there.
It's still there, but it is also kind of frozen. It's like a little time capsule. So if you've been in client mode for a month, then you switch back, it's going to look for that database, but that database is going to be
Has been touched for a
where it
month, yeah.
was the last time it was used, which was a month ago in this example. So it does not get erased.
This question's going to get asked a lot in the next few months.
Okay, so we should probably head that
Yeah.
off and throw a knowledge base out there.
Knowledge base, maybe a
Okay.
video.
Maybe a video, yeah, okay.
Let's throw down.
Dear Shane and Lex, what happens if the central server were to go down and become unreachable? Can we switch back to local mode? By the way, is there a way to import central server contents down locally in case something like this occurs? Hope for a great answer, Patrick L.
Okay, so now we're talking going down like crash, unavailable, you can't no longer get to it.
For whatever reason, it's now gone.
All right, gone?
It is, for all intents and purposes, a dead parrot.
Yes.
He doesn't know what that is. He's laughing. He has no idea that's a Monty
funny.
Python
It's a
reference.
great reference.
I don't know what it is, but it sounds fun.
I love
All right,
you, Lex.
after this webcast, we need to educate.
You're going to show me what
We're not doing any more work. We're just going to be watching
No, we're going to be
Monty
watching
Python.
the Dead Parrot sketch, of course.
Adam, who doesn't watch these, just felt a disturbance in the force.
Okay, so someone explain, what does it mean, dead parrot? I mean, it's gone. at this
In the
point.
case of this, the parrot's dead. It's told dead.
I
This
understand
chat's probably going to blow up.
I understand technically
We'll
what
cover
happens
this.
here.
We'll cover this offline.
I wish we could legally show it right now. That's how I feel.
Okay, so it's down. What you're going to want to do, I mean, you're going to, you can always do your backups of your database, and you can have that scheduled. But
Make sure you put those off your server so you can get to them. Just
so if the server is completely offline, yes, you can take a client mode. I'll go back over here to Heineken. So let's say that Guinness is completely gone. You'll see this can't connect to Guinness. You can always, when you open it up, if it can't connect to Guinness, you'll get a little dialogue saying, do you want to switch to local mode? Or if you just decide to head this off because you know that your server is going to go away, you can always go to central server on your client machine and just say switch to local mode. Or switch to server mode if you want to make this a new server. But switch to local mode. We do that. Type in, this remembers the
credentials.
This remembers the last background user of this client machine before it became a client machine. You say, okay, it will require a restart of the application. When it comes back up, it's going to be in local mode, and use the database that was there before.
Yeah.
So, if you want, just do exports and imports of your packages and your schedules. In the event that happens, store those off onto another computer so that you can import those. So, now notice this. I just moved this back to local mode, and Audacity 213 was the only package that was there before.
Yep.
So, and then of course to move back, you just go back to central server mode. As long as Elsewhere Engine's a console user, you can just go ahead and do that.
Don't you want to put this one back in client mode so we can look?
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
Guinness.
Client mode. Thank you, Guinness. Yada yada. You're awesome.
I gotta take them when I get them.
And when you move into client mode, if you recall from last week's webcast, if that console user has not been added, you have the option to add it here. You just have to know the password for the background service
yep.
on the central server. But if the central server person has made Lex, or in this case Elsewhere Engine, a console user before, it's going to work flawlessly. All you have to do to set console users is go to console users from the options menu and add them.
there.
Yeah, if I wanted to add Lex, remember you always.
Now you don't put my password in. You put the background user, which is Quintana.
Yes, which is Quintana. But we all know your password anyway.
Password.
I think it's
one.
probably something like Def Leopard. I don't know.
It's Lex is cool
Lex is cool.
because he thinks he's.
Lex is cool. 1, 2, 3. I make it difficult. No, yeah.
Screwing up. Let's go ahead and ask another one.
Our good friend Darren S. would like to know, what is the easiest way to find computers in PDQ inventory that have not been online in over a month?
If you go down to in the out of the box collections that we have, we've got some a reboot timeline, and you can see like rebooted in the last 30 days. If you look at the filter, these are boot time was after 30 days ago, so we're using a relative time. And then there's over 30 days ago. You could modify this one or copy and add a few ones to say the boot time was before 30 days ago and it's currently offline. There's still some little fudge factor in there in that it could be offline, but it was last booted 30 days ago.
Someone turned it on and turned it back
2 days
before
ago
the
or something.
heartbeat, yeah.
This is probably one of the better ways. We don't have an agent, remember, so when a computer's offline, we just go off the last scan and say the last time this computer was scanned, it had been up for 30 days and it's now offline. So something like, you want to do the computer boot time was before 30 days ago, and there's a little online column right there where you say online is false. So if it matches both of those, you should be good. I don't think we have any computers that have been online for
either. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's probably the best way to do it.
Dear Shane and Lex, in PDQ inventory with custom fields, is there a way to apply a custom field like a text type saying HR or finance to multiple computers at once or just one at a time? I have hundreds that I would like to apply something to, and one at a time would take quite a bit of time. Thank you, Nick W.
You want to take this one?
I'll take this one.
All right.
All right. Chris showed me this the other day. It was really great. So let's say you've got all these machines that are supposed to be in HR. Highlight them all, right click, and save to a data file. Okay. Now, it's going to save everything you see on here. All you really need to retain from this is the computer name. And I built this right here, this CSV file, which will open in Notepad.
So you want to use a CSV file when you're going to use
for
when you're gonna
imports.
do this.
Okay. You'll notice I got name, department, and I retained all the extra empty fields.
Okay.
But, so at this point, here's the computer names, and then I went in and HR, just basically copied and
Which
pasted
computers
HR.
were HR, which were
Or
finance?
Yep, and I got some lab ones. At this point, all you'd have to do is go to custom fields. So,
Go to preferences.
thank you. Custom
In the
fields.
custom fields, there's a wizard, an import wizard.
I grabbed the CSV file, which is my and it's going to come up and ask me for, I'm going to let these skip because I don't need them, and this one, I'm going to name the type of field it is. And basically, I want it to be department, so I'll put in department in there. Oh, I am clicking all over the place, man.
I think you haven't specified that one as a custom field, right?
No, I haven't yet.
All right. So before that, sorry, getting slightly ahead of yourself. Obviously, before you're going to ever do that, you're going to want to add. You want a new field, and you mentioned it yourself, text. So we'll call this department. We'll just do DEPT. How's that sound?
Perfect.
It's a text field. So now this is available on the computer table for all computers. It's going to be null initially until you either change it one by one or do what Lex is showing you.
And the nice thing is because we named it the same thing, it's going to import nicely.
If you didn't name it the same thing, you can always do that mapping.
Give it a next, and away it's going to go.
Yep.
There you go. That's how you do it quickly. One.
And if you want to show this, remember you can always click up here in this little corner or go up to a view and edit columns. And then we're going to add, and we called it department, right?
Yep.
So you should just see a dip. There it is, DEPT. And this is to actually display this in the collection window.
And then we got to open up because I used the web lab.
Oh, go ahead and do it.
So we'll just go up here to, there we go. HR, finance, and there's some lab machines.
So that's how you can do it. You want to use a CSV file, basically, the takeaway. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, PowerShell. You can also do this entirely in PowerShell. Just throwing it out there. Because we have we actually have the command line utilities for PDQ Inventory to create custom fields, as well as use the import custom field wizard. And so you could actually just do a database query using SQLite 3 in a PowerShell script, grab your computers, throw them in an array, save it to a file, import that file, create a field, all within PowerShell. It's actually really easy to set up.
So there's 3 blog posts that are coming out.
Geez, I can even write that live. I mean, it's easy. It's easy.
Sweet. Well, make that so. I'd like to be able to
Get that
So
pencil.
are you saying it's going to be ready before the end of the webcast?
I could write it in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are some
Sweet.
strong words, man.
I know. I almost want to throw down the glove and say with no mistakes, but as soon
He's
as I say that,
throwing
there's
down.
zero.
No mistakes. I just
that's
showed
a risky
mistakes
thing.
right
It's a
here.
gauntlet. You drop a gauntlet in front of Lex, and first thing he'll do, instead of thinking it as a challenge, is just try to pick it up and literally lick the inside for any whiskey that might be in there. Any mead.
It is a gauntlet.
I'm absolutely not going to argue with that statement.
You'll see
at
him
all.
teething on. You'll see him teething on all of our whiskey tumblers at the end of the.
If we
Anything
were
left?
empty.
Anything left?
If we were empty, but see, these are all still full.
There we
so.
go. Let's go to Kevin's question.
Dear Shane and Lex, I'm starting to run into issues with antivirus agents installed on the client PCs, blocking inventory scans or deployment packages. Are there any future plans to add packages to the enterprise library that include sample scripts for temporarily disabling AV services for the most common AV software?
No, I mean, there's better ways of doing this, Kevin. Number one, if you have an antivirus service that is blocking deployments or scans or something, really what you need to do is look for an exemption, or sometimes called an exception area in your antivirus software to block out certain directories. Say don't monitor these directories in real time, because if the problem is your inventory scans, your deployments, whatever, getting blocked, trying to use deployment to disable them, they're going to get blocked anyway.
It's going to be blocked,
At this point, this directory that you're going to want to do is, pardon me, if you go out to remember the admin dollar is the Windows directory of the remote computer. But since we're on this computer, you go out to your Windows directory, which would, if you're doing this remote, be admin dollar.
The admin arsenal.
You'll see an
folder.
admin arsenal. Generally, we recommend just making an exemption of admin arsenal in Windows. Okay, so it'd be like windir variable and then admin arsenal or something. If you want to break it down, deploy runner and inventory scanner. But you want those to have exceptions so that your install files can go in your runner directory, your scanner files can go in the scanner, and they're not going to get interrupted by your antivirus software. So it's an exception for Windows admin arsenal is really the best way to go. All right. Well, there's some good questions there, Alexathon.
There's a lot of them, man.
Once again, I'd like to welcome Lisa. You'll be seeing a lot of her. She brings just a really great perspective and communication. She can read, which leaves all of us in the dust.
She can read, and she actually knows how to talk to
You
people.
can see the
not
bar that
nerdy.
we've set for hiring. Anyway, I'd like to welcome Lisa over to PDQ. And if you have any questions, by all means, throw down. Check out the extra content.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, rock on. Hey, social distortion in a month.
In a month, man. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Chad B. and Sean P., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Also, congratulations, Mary M. Give us a shout on the chat. You just won yourself the vintage floppy coaster. And don't forget, we are hiring here at pdq.com, looking for scripting automation, PDQ product support, and senior IT security. You can find all the info on our website, pdq.com/jobs. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you back here next time.